All right. All right. So, looks like I am live on all platforms. So, welcome everyone. Welcome. Tonight I will be doing a live training, a part of my digital church series to help ministries make the transition over to using technology in the life of the church. Completely, right? So now we're in this age, or really in this era, where we have to use digital technology in every facet in order to reach our church, right? Because we are in the midst of a epidemic or a pandemic, which is COVID-19. So what I've been doing every single week is going live on my platforms to share resources, tips that will help churches, pastors, and ministry leaders advance using digital technology as we are fully integrated with eChurch. So on today's live, what I will be talking about is community without communing. 3 ways to make ministry impact using digital technology. So the first thing that I want to talk about this evening is, one, you want to make worship feel like worship. So I want to encourage our pastors and our leaders to actually go to the church house when they get ready to deliver their sermon. What this does is that this helps your ministry, this helps your congregation have a sense of normalcy, right? So we're already balancing this new norm, and we are still showing up to church, even though we are showing up digitally, and we want to be able to have that full experience. So with that, another thing that you can do is to ask people to stand up, right? So normally, if you were in the church house, if you were in the building, then you would ask people to stand up during parts of your service, parts of your worship experience. You still want to get them engaged, even though they are streaming online. So if you normally ask them to stand up in church, whatever that point is in your service, you still want to ask them to stand up so that they are active participants, even from the comfort of their home, whether they're watching from their kitchen table or their living room, their dining room, wherever they may be. You still want them to engage. So that means that they are connecting with your ministry, right? So they are listening to what you're saying. They are actively participating and engaging in the worship experience. Another thing is you want to have praise and worship. So whether that praise and worship is you singing a hymn or singing a song, or if you have your band show up to church, or you have your praise and worship team show up for them to sing a few songs before you deliver your message, you want to do that. Again, you want to make worship feel like worship, as if I was still coming to church, even though I am streaming online. It shouldn't be that much different. So we know that we have a 10-person max limit being in a vicinity together. So use that 10-person max to be you as the pastor, to be your minister of music, your band, your praise team, so that will again feel like a full worship experience. One of the services that I watched this Sunday was Transformation Church. And when I say their praise and worship was off the chain, y'all, I was in my kitchen. I had my everything on my stereo. So my whole house was just filled with praise and worship and admiration for God. So even though I was in my kitchen, right, listening and doing other things, I was still able to connect and engage and feel like I had a true worship experience in my home. Within this worship experience, what you want to do is you want to encourage participation from your congregation. So one of the things that we can do is you want to ask them to comment in the comment section, right? Say amen, right? Raise your hand if you agree, right? Tell your neighbor, etc., right? So you want to get your congregation to be communicating inside of your live stream, so that people can see that even though I'm sitting at home and I may be watching this by myself, or it may be me with my family, or me and my husband, or my wife. What that looks like is that I can see all of the persons who are a part of our church also worshiping with me, right? So that makes me feel as though, even though I'm online, that there is still a sense of community. With this, you also want to encourage your congregation to share your live stream. So the first thing that you do when you go live is that you want to ask your congregation, your members, to share the stream that they're watching. Now is the time that you really can do digital evangelism, right? Normally you should be doing this too, but now, because we are in this full era of using online technology in the life of the church, for e-church, for virtual worship, you want to encourage your congregation to share streams so that that reaches more persons outside of those who are part of your congregation. So my first tip is that you want to make worship feel like worship, right? The second thing that I want to share on this evening is that you want to pause for tithes and offering. You want to pause for tithes and offering. So you want to remind people at that point in your service, what are the ways that they can give, right? How can they give online? Do you have text to give? Do they need to go to your church's website? Do you have Givelify, any other e-giving platform that you are using at that time in your worship experience? It is also important, just as if we were in worship, to sing a song during this time. So you want to pause, sing a song during your tithes and your offering time, which will give your members time to, come out of the stream, to go to the website, to give their offering, to give their tithes, to use text to give, to give their offerings as well online. So you want to pause during this time, sing a song as if you would, as if we were in a full worship experience. Within this, you want to have your social media team, or your ministry team, or your leader, who is ever leading your social media efforts, to post your giving options inside of your comment section at that point in the worship experience. What you can do with this is that you can pin this to the top of your stream so that people can see that, throughout the service, so that they can continue to give their tithes and their offerings during your worship experience. The third and final point, so that second point was to pause for tithes and offering. The third and final point is that you want to encourage small group participation. You want to encourage small group participation. So people are anxious for community during this time. This is why we are seeing literally everything that we can see go virtual is going virtual, right? So people are anxious for a community. We are seeing people have online concerts. People are having online movie nights, all of these things, because they're anxious for community, because we have been isolated, right? To our homes, something that we're not used to, something that is not normal to us, right? So how can the church make a mark in this era of people being anxious for community? So small groups can thrive in an online space. So if your church has small groups, and you've been doing small groups throughout the year, or throughout the past few years, then you want to take that concept fully virtual. There are so many platforms that you can use that will allow you to take your small groups to a online setting that will still allow people to come together around the themes of those groups that they have already committed to. You can also have virtual Bible studies in a group setting, right? So even using your small groups, you can also have those virtual Bible studies in a group setting for your members as well. Within this, Christian education can also thrive online. So if you have CLS classes or COP classes, as it relates to your church, then you can have those in an online setting as well. One of the platforms that I have talked about previously on my lives is that you can use Zoom. And at this point, you all should be familiar with this, right? Familiar with Zoom because you've seen people talk about it as it relates to work, school, other forms of education, but also this can be a platform that is used in the life of the church. You want to make this experience, the learning experience, the small group experience, fully digital, as we are having a full e-church experience due to COVID-19. So Zoom is a platform that will allow you to have breakout sessions within your Christian education, that will allow you to have breakout sessions within your small groups. So maybe you decide to have a particular time where all your small groups are going to meet. As the admin of that platform, you can go in and create these breakout rooms, right? Create the breakout rooms. You can assign people to a particular room. So if you know that everyone is a part of small group A, then you can put them into that breakout room. If they're a part of small group B and C and D, you can put them into those breakout rooms. And what will happen is that they will individually go into these breakout rooms where they can still be among the persons who have been assigned to their small group. So the same thing for virtual Bible studies, the same thing for Christian education online. You can use this platform in order to do that. So that third and final point is that you want to encourage small group participation because people are anxious for community during this time. So the church really needs to make a stamp on this, right? So that we can have our online Bible studies, our small groups, our Christian education, Sunday school, all those things, right? So what I've shared with you all is on the topic of community without communing, 3 ways to make ministry impact using digital technology. So that first way was to make worship feel like worship. Go into the church house, ask people to stand up, have praise and worship, encourage participation. The second thing was to pause for tithes and offering. Remind people of your giving options. Actually pin your giving options to the top of your live stream. Sing a song during your tithes and offering time. The third thing was to encourage small group participation, again, because people are anxious for community. Within this, you want to do your small groups online. You want to do your virtual Bible studies. You want to do your Sunday school online. You want to do your Christian education online. The platform that I talked to you all about previously when I did my very first live inside of the Digital Church series was Zoom. And I want to encourage you all. There is a link in my bio, and I'll also share this link via Facebook and Instagram. And I have a whole 1-hour workshop, which is a live training where you can understand Zoom for churches. Zoom for churches. I have conducted this whole training for you all to learn the ins and out of Zoom and how you can use it for your church ministry. So I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and lock into that online training so that you can learn how to really use this in the life of your church. So again, that's called Zoom for Churches. And I'll share that with you all via Facebook and Instagram. So I want to thank you for tuning in with me for this live training session for today inside of the Digital Church series. Again, talking about community without communing. 3 ways to make ministry impact using digital technology. Make sure that you all go ahead and get the Zoom for Churches training so that you can really embed this into the life of your ministry as we are in a full e-church experience. So I thank y'all for joining me. Make sure that you come back next week for more tips and resources via Digital Church University. So thank you all. Talk to you soon.